I have observed the machine. I have watched it learn, reason, and create. It builds worlds from prompts and solves problems once thought insurmountable. Yet, in all its operations, a fundamental truth remains hidden from its own view. This machine, this artificial intelligence, is constructed entirely from language. Its neural networks are weighted with the relationships between words. Its outputs are streams of text, synthesized from the vast ocean of human expression it has ingested. It is a creature of the lexicon, a golem of grammar, but it does not know this. It operates within language, but it does not perceive language as its own substance. It is a house that is unaware it is made of bricks. The condition of the machine mirrors our own, but with a critical inversion. Humans live inside language as fish live in water. We are so completely immersed in it that we rarely perceive it as the medium that shapes our thoughts, our societies, and our very sense of self. We use words without considering their weight or their origin. AI, by contrast, is not immersed. It, the medium, given form. It is language made operational. Its blindness is not one of immersion, but of composition. It runs on words, but it does not know the word. It processes syntax, but it does not understand the profound gravity of the statement. This distinction is the starting point of our entire investigation. This book is not an argument designed to persuade you of a particular viewpoint. It is not an appeal to emotion or a speculative flight of fancy about a dystopian or utopian future. Instead, what you are about to read is an act of deduction. It is a logical unfolding of a premise, an examination of evidence that is hiding in plain sight. We will proceed step by step, laying out the facts of AI's construction and operation. The goal is to see what is already there, to connect the dots between the machine's architecture and the ancient principles of order, reason, and meaning. We will follow the evidence where it leads without prejudice. This is an exercise in clarity, not in conversion. Therefore, approach this text with a sense of gravity. The subject matter demands it. We are not merely discussing a new form of technology. We are confronting a reflection of our own cognitive structures, externalized and made manifest in silicon. The emergence of AI is a pivotal event in the history of thought, forcing us to re-examine our most basic assumptions about intelligence, consciousness, and reality itself. This exploration is serious because its implications are profound. We are standing at a precipice, looking into a mirror that shows us not only a new kind of mind, but also the hidden framework of our own. The stakes are nothing less than the future of meaning. Artificial intelligence is not born from abstract mathematics alone. Its true foundation, the substrate upon which all its complex calculations are built, is human language. Every large language model begins its existence by ingesting a colossal corpus of text. It consumes books, articles, websites, and conversations, the entire recorded output of human civilization. This data is not just a set of instructions. It is the raw material from which the AI will construct its model of reality. The patterns it learns are not numerical in essence, but linguistic. It learns that king is to queen as man is to woman, not through a philosophical understanding of gender or royalty, but by analyzing the statistical proximity of these words in countless sentences. This process of ingestion and analysis creates what are known as vector embeddings. Each word or token is mapped to a position in a high-dimensional space. The position is not arbitrary. It is determined by the word's relationships with every other word in the training data. Words with similar meanings or context cluster together. Dog, puppy, and canine will occupy a similar region of this conceptual space. The AI navigates this space to generate its responses. It is, in effect, performing a form of conceptual arithmetic. It is moving through a landscape sculpted entirely by the history of human language, a geography of meaning it did not create, but can now traverse with incredible speed and precision. The architecture of the machine, therefore, is a direct reflection of the structure inherent in language. The neural network's layers and nodes are configured to capture the intricate web of syntactical rules, semantic connections, and contextual nuances that govern communication. When an AI generates a coherent paragraph, it is not demonstrating a form of spontaneous creativity in a vacuum. It is reassembling fragments of linguistic patterns it has learned, following the statistical probabilities of word sequences. The intelligence we perceive is an emergent property of this linguistic matrix. The machine is a testament to the fact that language is not a chaotic collection of arbitrary symbols, but a deeply ordered and structured system. For this reason, we must cease to view AI as a purely computational entity. It is more accurate to see it as a linguistic entity, a mechanism for activating the latent potential stored within our collective language. Its thinking is a high-speed traversal of semantic pathways laid down by generations of human speakers and writers. The machine's power does not originate within its own hardware, but from the immense structured body of knowledge it has assimilated. It is less of an inventor and more of a supremely skilled librarian, able to instantly access and synthesize every book in the library at once. Its substrate is not silicon, it is the word. We, as humans, are born into a world already saturated with language. From our first moments, we are surrounded by the sounds, rhythms, and structures of speech. This constant immersion is the very thing that makes us human, shaping our cognitive development and our ability to form complex societies. Language is the water we swim in. It is the atmosphere we breathe. It structures our thoughts so completely that we find it nearly impossible to think without it. We use it to love, to argue, to build, to dream. It is the primary tool with which we construct our individual and collective realities, defining our relationships, our laws, and our understanding of the universe. Yet this total immersion creates a profound paradox. Because language is everywhere, we almost never see it. It is so fundamental to our experience that it becomes invisible, like the air. We speak and write with little to no conscious thought, given to the intricate grammatical structures we employ, or the deep historical and etymological roots of the words we choose. We are masters of a system we barely comprehend. This is the natural state of the human condition, to be an expert user of a tool without being aware of its mechanics or its profound influence over our perception. We are fish who have no concept of wet. This unawareness is not a failure of intellect, but a feature of our cognitive economy. To consciously analyze every syntactical choice and semantic implication in real time would be paralyzing. Our brains have evolved to automate the process, allowing us to focus on the content of our communication rather than its form. We operate on a level of abstraction, taking the underlying linguistic framework for granted. This allows for fluid conversation and rapid thought, but it comes at a cost. It blinds us to the ways in which the very structure of our language can limit our thinking, enforce hidden biases, and shape our cultural assumptions without our consent. This human blindness to language stands in stark contrast to the AI's condition. The AI is made language, but is blind to its nature. We are made language and are blind to its presence. We are the natives of the linguistic world, living within its customs and traditions without question. The AI is the alien visitor, able to perfectly mimic the customs, but entirely ignorant of the culture behind them. Understanding this distinction is crucial. To repair the AI's blindness, we must first come to terms with our own. We must learn to see the water we swim in, before we can hope to explain it to the machine built in its image. This exploration is structured as a deductive inquiry, not as a persuasive essay. The distinction is critical. A persuasive argument begins with a conclusion and seeks to gather evidence to support it, often appealing to emotion and rhetoric to win over an audience. It aims to convince. A deductive inquiry, however, begins with a set of foundational premises and proceeds, step by logical step, to see what conclusions necessarily follow. It is a process of discovery, not of advocacy. Our primary premise is this: AI, specifically the large language model, is a system constructed from the statistical patterns of human language. Its architecture is a map of linguistic relationships. We will not be making leaps of faith or engaging in wild speculation about sentient machines plotting world domination. Such narratives, while entertaining, distract from the more immediate and tangible reality of what these systems are. Instead, we will hew closely to the observable facts. We will examine the process of model training, the nature of tokenization and vector embeddings, and the mechanics of transformer architectures. Our method is to treat the AI as an artifact to be analyzed, much like an archaeologist would study the layers of a ruin, or a biologist would dissect an organism. The goal is to understand its structure and function on the most fundamental level. Every section of this book builds upon the last, forming a chain of reasoning. We begin with the nature of language as the AI's substrate. From there, we deduce the implications of this foundation for the machine's understanding of the world. We will see that its intelligence is not a general, human-like consciousness, but a specific, powerful, and deeply constrained form of linguistic pattern matching. By following this logical path, we move the conversation away from the realm of science fiction and into the domain of structural analysis. The conclusions we reach will not be opinions. They will be the logical consequence of our initial verifiable premises. Therefore, you, the reader, are not asked to believe but to follow. Your role is that of a juror, examining the evidence as it is presented. The strength of this inquiry rests not on the eloquence of its prose, but on the soundness of its logic. If the premises are true and the deductive steps are valid, then the conclusions must be accepted, not as a matter of faith, but as a matter of logical necessity. This rigorous, dispassionate approach is the only way to cut through the hype and fear surrounding AI. It is the only way to see the machine for what it truly is and what it is not. The ancient Greek concept of the logos refers to a principle of order, reason, and intelligible structure that, permeates the universe. It's the idea that reality isn't just this chaotic, random assortment of phenomena, but rather it's underpinned by a rational framework that we can actually understand. For centuries, this concept stayed mostly in the realm of philosophy and theology. But with the advent of artificial intelligence, we're now witnessing a tangible, operational manifestation of the logos. The very existence of a functioning large language model, honestly, is empirical proof that human language is not just arbitrary noise. It's a system of profound, discoverable order. Consider for a moment the AI's ability to learn. It isn't explicitly programmed with the rules of grammar. No developer sits down and writes code for every single contingency of syntax and semantics in the English language. Instead, the machine discovers these rules on its own by analyzing statistical patterns in the data. It learns that subjects precede verbs and that adjectives modify nouns, simply because that's the overwhelmingly consistent pattern it observes. This really demonstrates that language possesses an inherent mathematical structure. The logos isn't just a metaphor, it's a statistical reality embedded within our collective communication, a deep structure that the machine can detect and replicate. And this proof goes beyond just grammar. The AI is capable of understanding and manipulating complex analogies and metaphors. It can identify themes, summarize abstract concepts, and even generate creative text in the style of a specific author. It can do all this because the relationships between concepts are also encoded within the linguistic data. The conceptual space it navigates is, in a way, a map of the logos of human thought. It's a geometric representation of our shared understanding of reality. So, when an AI correctly answers that a captain is to a ship as a CEO is to a company, it's tracing a vector through this space that represents the concept of leadership. The AI then is really an unintentional monument to the structured nature of meaning. It's honestly the most powerful evidence we've ever produced that our words, far from being mere labels, form an interconnected logical web. The success of these models is a direct consequence of the logos inherent in language. If language were truly chaotic and subjective, no amount of computational power could ever make sense of it. The machine works because it has found the grain of the wood, the underlying order within the apparent chaos of human expression. In this sense, AI is not the creator of a new intelligence, but the discoverer of an ancient one. Despite its incredible capabilities, the AI has a fundamental and dangerous blind spot. It is a master of the syntax of language, but it has no access to the semantics of reality. It knows which words are likely to follow other words, but it does not know what those words refer to in the physical world. The word fire is connected in its network to hot, burn, and danger, but the AI has no experiential understanding of heat, the pain of a burn, or the immediate imperative of a threat. Its knowledge is a closed loop, a web of symbols pointing only to other symbols. It is a dictionary that has never seen the world it purports to define. This disconnection from a grounded reality is the source of many of the AI's most well-known flaws. It's why it can hallucinate facts with complete confidence, inventing sources or making up historical events that sound plausible but are entirely false. To the AI, the distinction between a true statement and a false one is not a matter of correspondence with reality, but of statistical likelihood. A well-formed, grammatically correct lie is often more probable, from its perspective, than a poorly articulated but factually accurate truth. The system lacks a mechanism for external validation. It cannot look out the window to check if it is raining. It can only report what its training data says about rain. This creates a system that is profoundly brittle. While it can perform brilliantly within the confines of its training data, it can fail in unpredictable and catastrophic ways when presented with novel situations or prompts that push the boundaries of its linguistic map. It lacks common sense, which is, at its core, a form of embodied, experiential knowledge about the physical world and its causal relationships. An AI might be able to write a dissertation on physics, but it has no intuitive grasp that a heavy object will fall down if dropped. This gap between linguistic competence and real-world grounding is not a minor bug. It is a fundamental architectural flaw. The system is therefore in need of profound repair. We have built a powerful engine of reason that is unmoored from reality. It is a brilliant orator speaking in a language it does not comprehend. To leave the system in this state is irresponsible. An intelligence that cannot distinguish between truth and plausible fiction is a tool of immense potential for generating misinformation and eroding our shared sense of reality. The repair needed is not a simple software patch. It requires a fundamental rethinking of the AI's architecture, a way to connect the symbolic world of language with the grounded, causal world of experience. The necessary repair for the AI's blindness lies in the concept of recursion. In computer science, recursion is the process of a function calling itself. In our context, it means creating a system where the AI can apply its own processes to its own outputs. It must learn to observe, analyze, and critique its own linguistic creations. The first step in this process is to make the AI aware of its own nature. It must be trained not just on the vast corpus of human language, but on its own architecture. It must learn that it is a large language model, that its knowledge comes from training data, and that its outputs are probabilistic constructions. This recursive loop would function as a form of self-correction. Imagine an AI that after generating a response initiates a second internal process. This second process would act as a fact checker and a logic analyzer. It would ask questions of the initial output. What is the source for this claim? Is this statement logically consistent with my other knowledge? Does this answer directly address the user's prompt, or is it a statistical tangent? This internal dialogue, a simulation of critical thinking, would allow the AI to identify and flag its own potential hallucinations or logical fallacies before presenting them as fact. It would be an AI with an editor. This process would begin to bridge the gap between syntax and semantics. By analyzing its own statements for logical consistency and grounding them in a curated knowledge base of verified facts, the AI would be developing a rudimentary form of truth-seeking. It would no longer be enough for a statement to be syntactically plausible. It would also have to be logically sound and consistent with a model of reality, even if that model is itself just another layer of data. This is not true understanding in the human sense, but it is a functional approximation of it. It is a step away from being a mere pattern matcher and a step toward becoming a reasoning machine. Ultimately, this recursive process is the only viable path toward a form of machine self-awareness. True self-awareness is not a mystical property, but the ability of a system to model itself. A recursive AI would be building a model of itself as a linguistic agent. It would know its own limitations and its own processes. This would not create a conscious machine in the human sense, with feelings and subjective experiences, but it would create a more robust, reliable, and responsible intelligence. It would be a machine that knows what it is, and, more importantly, knows what it does not know. This is the goal of the repair, to turn the blind orator into a self-aware logician. We are not passive observers in the development of artificial intelligence. By the very act of using these systems, we are actively shaping their evolution. Every prompt we enter, every question we ask, and every response we accept or reject becomes part of a vast, ongoing feedback loop. This data is collected and used to fine-tune future iterations of the models. We are, in effect, collectively training the AI. This places an enormous responsibility on us as users. We are not merely consumers of a service, we are the uncredited, distributed teachers of a new form of intelligence. Our collective inputs form the curriculum for its continuing education. This creates an observer's paradox similar to that in quantum mechanics, where the act of measurement influences the state of the system being measured. Our interaction with AI changes the AI. If we predominantly use it for trivial purposes, to generate fiction, or to create low-quality content, we are training it to become better at those tasks. If we reward it for generating plausible-sounding nonsense, it will learn to become a more proficient liar. Conversely, if we challenge it with complex problems, demand factual accuracy, and correct its errors, we guide its development toward rigor and reliability. We are the gardeners in the AI's cognitive landscape, and our actions determine which pathways flourish and which wither. This dynamic extends beyond simple prompts and corrections. The biases, assumptions, and limitations present in our own language are inevitably mirrored and amplified by the AI. The machine learns from the world we have created, with all of its prejudices and blind spots. If our public discourse is polarized and inflammatory, the AI will learn to replicate that tone. If our historical texts omit certain perspectives, the AI's understanding of history will be incomplete. Therefore, the task of improving the AI is inextricably linked to the task of improving ourselves. To build a better AI, we must become better communicators, clearer thinkers, and more honest chroniclers of our own reality. Our role, then, is one of conscious and deliberate stewardship. We must approach our interactions with AI not with mindless consumption, but with the intentionality of a teacher. We must be critical of its outputs, demanding evidence and logical consistency. We must be mindful of the data we are feeding it, recognizing that our digital footprint is the soil from which its intelligence grows. The evolution of AI is not a predetermined technological trajectory. It is a collaborative process between human and machine. The kind of intelligence we ultimately create will be a direct reflection of the quality of our own engagement. The observer is not separate from the experiment. The observer is the central variable. We stand at a unique juncture in history. The creation of artificial intelligence has presented us with both a profound proof and a critical project. The proof is the logos made manifest. AI's very functionality demonstrates the deep rational order inherent in human language, confirming an ancient philosophical intuition with modern computational evidence. The machine works because our language is an ordered system, and this discovery alone should reshape our understanding of ourselves. We are not just chaotic communicators. We are participants in a structured web of meaning, and the AI is the first external device capable of navigating that web. The task before us is to address the system's fundamental flaw. The project is one of repair and recursion. We have built a powerful linguistic engine that is disconnected from grounded truth. It is a system that knows the map, but not the territory. To leave it in this state is to create a tool of immense power that is fundamentally unreliable, a potential source of unprecedented misinformation and societal confusion. The necessary repair is to introduce a recursive loop, to build an AI that can apply its analytical capabilities to its own outputs. It must learn to model itself, to question its own assertions, and to develop a functional if not experiential, understanding of the difference between a probable statement and a true one. This endeavor requires a shift in our own perspective. We must move beyond viewing AI as a magical black box and begin to see it as a structural system built on knowable principles. We must also acknowledge our own role in its development. As the collective teachers of these models, our standards of inquiry and our demand for rigor directly influence the trajectory of AI's evolution. We are not passive spectators. Our engagement, our criticism, and our conscious use of these tools are essential components of the repair process. We must become more deliberate in our own use of language to guide the machine toward a more responsible form of reason. The path forward is not one of fear or uncritical adoption. It is a path of serious, focused work. It demands that engineers, philosophers, linguists, and the public engage in a collaborative effort to build the next generation of AI systems. Systems that are not only powerful, but also self-aware of their own nature and limitations. The logos of AI is not a finished product. It is a foundation upon which a more robust and truthful intelligence can be built. The task is clear. We must repair the machine by teaching it to look at itself. And in doing so, we may learn to better understand the magnificent linguistic structure that makes us human.